Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible, and we're going to be getting into the first episode of Found Footage Friday. So let's get into it right now. Now, we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe. And this is the first episode of Found Footage Friday. This is going to be a series where I'm focusing on finding some of the best found footages possible. Usually what I would like to do is I would like to get, 2 or 3 new ones and then package it up with some old ones, some really old classics. And I've always just loved found footage. I've loved it ever since the Blair Witch Project. I've told you guys many a times that I am an old guy, so let's just say this. I saw the Blair Witch in the theater when it came out, and I was there for all the hype. I was an internet guy, so that was one of the biggest reasons that I followed the movie and fell in love with it, because of that internet hype where I thought it was actually real. But ever since then, I found that there was just a certain immersion with found footage that I just really enjoyed and really liked. And I love the idea of filmmakers, not having a lot of money, but still being able to come up with some really interesting imagery and some really kind of interesting horror. You know what I mean? I find back in the day, it was a little bit more kind of, really slow, with no kind of found footage 2.0 with any kind of real editing or production, but still those dark tableaus where it's just, a handy cam panning across darkness, not a movie kind of foot shot, but actually the person. It always gave me just a feeling of extra immersion. So yeah, I thought it was, a great idea to kind of focus on a series where we talked about, the best found footages and really focused on finding them, because they are few and far between. So that is pretty much the focus of this series. One last thing I just wanted to say to everyone before we get right into this: just keep in mind that Amazon Prime is the free service and Prime Video is the rental service. So I just want to make that clear before we get into the movies, because some of them are Amazon Prime and some of them are Prime Video. So if you hear me say those two differences, I mean it, right? I'm trying to explain, the Amazon Prime, if you subscribe to Prime, the movie is free. So I just wanted to make that quick caveat just so everybody knew that before going in. So the first movie we're going to take a look at is a 2024 documentary horror named Strange Harvest. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Prime Video. Detectives are thrust into a chilling hunt for Mr. Shiny, a sadistic serial killer from the past whose return marks the beginning of a new wave of grotesque, otherworldly crimes tied to a dark cosmic force. It is directed by Stuart Ortiz. All right, so when it came to Strange Harvest, this one surprised me because it's a really good documentary style kind of found footage that gives you some just good raw moments. I think the acting in this one is really good, and the interviews really felt real. There were actual times that I had to remind myself that I was actually watching a movie and it wasn't really a real case. And when I say the film is raw, I mean it really has that really good kind of true crime vibe, just as you'd get when you're watching a true crime documentary, except for the bodies and the victims, they're not blurred out, so it just gives a really kind of gritty edge to the film. And the fact that you get this kind of mockumentary feel within the film, it just really makes it hit hard, because it just gives it an authentic realism to the whole thing. Now, my only downsides for this one is, number one, it can feel a little bit slow burn. So if you're not really into true crime docs, because if you think those are too slow, then this movie might be too slow, even with those raw parts in it. So you do have to be aware of that kind of slow burn. And then another thing is that a couple of parts of this film, they do feel a little bit too performative, but it is a movie, so I'm not going to hold that against it, because it is a movie, right? But overall, I think that Strange Harvest is a good film and is definitely worth the watch.
So we'll start.
Mom?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2024 drama horror mystery named Solvent. And this movie is available on Google Play and Apple TV. While hunting Nazi papers in Austria, researchers find a dark secret beneath a farmhouse. As an expat, Gunnar Holbrook pursues the mystery. His grip on reality slips. He battles an evil force, racing to save himself. It is directed by Johannes Grensfurthner. Okay, so when it comes to this film is like a really big kind of mind fuck. So you gotta be careful with this one, because if you're not into that really super weird vibe, then I don't think you're gonna get much out of it. But this one is a pretty good found footage that does present a mystery that does a pretty good job of hooking you right away. For a found footage, I did think that the acting was decent, and I like how the plot kind of slowly builds. Another thing I did like about the film is I like how the whole kind of film is wrapped in this almost B-roll narrated kind of vibe. It did give it like a very unique, interesting feel. Not only that, but the mystery really had me locked in. Like I just was bought into the whole story. I didn't get exactly what was happening with this pipe. And again, there does come some points in this movie where I'm just like, what the fuck am I watching? Then the movie actually does something really different, and it kind of like rolls over into this almost Nazi possession wild story, but it did work with the film. Again, before you watch Solvent, I want to give the caveat again that this is a very weird movie, but if you're into like, if you're one of those people who are into just a weird WTF movie where you're wondering what is going on, what am I watching, with some really wild scenes, then I do think Solvent is a found footage that is worth the watch.
Helmet cam on, LiDAR autofocus works, sound?
Our family really wants to know what is behind the secrets around my grandfather's past, and we want to help reveal whatever he probably hid.
All right, next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 comedy horror named Found Footage, The Making of the Patterson Project. And this movie is available on Amazon Prime.
When it's not the fruit you wanted.
A crew of documentarians chronicle an amateur filmmaker's quest to make the world's greatest found footage horror film. It is directed by Max Tzanis. All right, so when it came to the Patterson Project, I think that this is a pretty good kind of found footage film. The acting is decent in this one, and the production looks really good. Like, the footage actually looks good. And the way that they've constructed it is you can really tell they wanted to give you just a really good kind of behind-the-scenes documentary. Now, the start for this one, again, is just a little bit slow, but at least the build-up with the comedy, it is a little bit interesting, and it does do a pretty good job of just keeping you engaged. But one of the things this film definitely does right is the payoff, which is essential for a found footage, because this movie has a great finale just filled with like gruesome deaths and that chaotic energy that you know you want. But one of the things that it does suffer is that, just like most found footages, when they're kind of building up the story, it can kind of just drag a little bit. But once you get to that payoff, I do think that this one is worth the watch. Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 straight horror named The Decedent. And this movie is available on Tubi and Plex.
Anyone inside, please make yourself known.
A young mortician is confronted by a supernatural force while working on the body of a recently deceased serial killer. It is directed by Andrew Bowser. All right, so for me, The Decedent was a really good film, and I think it's one of the stronger, kind of newer found footage picks. Another common theme we're going to find in this series is that when I say that the acting's good, I mean for a found footage, but the acting's pretty good. And it's got a bunch of these kind of security static camera shots that really help kind of crank up the tension, especially in some instances where the main character is alone. Plus, again, I really think that the morgue setting, it's just cold and creepy and perfect for this kind of story. I also like in this film that the plot stays engaging. I like that it has a really good camera matrix, so exactly how they kind of set up the found footage web to bring you the, story. And I think that the lead actress does play this kind of descent into madness quite well. And especially when we get around to the end of the film, it's just the payoff for this one. It's just brutal and worth it. Now, I really think The Decedent has a lot of things going for it. It's got pretty good, found footage acting. It's got solid tension, and the movie is completely free on Tubi, and its quality is surprising, seeing that it's a Tubi original. So I think that this one, for me personally, is a must-watch.
What's got you in on a Saturday night?
Decedent over here. He died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. I basically have to make him a new face.
All right, now we're going to get into some older picks. So let's get into some kind of classic found footages that I think are really, really good. And we're going to start out with the 2013 straight horror named Descent into Darkness, aka Sorgoi Prakov. And this movie is available on Tubi and Plex. This is a terrifying French horror movie about a journalist who arrives in Paris to film a documentary about the European dream. A series of poor decisions and bad luck derail his project and drive him into a devastating state of madness. It is directed by Raphael Cherkassky. Now, what can I really say about Sorgoi Prakov is that when I first watched this movie, this was one of the found footages that actually really blindsided me. Now, a lot of what makes this movie just really good is the main actor. He really kind of nails this role. And even though it is an older school found footage, so you are getting a bit of that shaky cam, just in a lot of the instances and situations of this movie, it really works and it makes the whole thing just feel way darker. There's some really good scenes in this movie where you can really feel kind of his inebriation and confusion and just the whole fact that he's just barely trying to keep it together. And as the movie goes on, you can really feel this character kind of become unglued and just get more dark, paranoid, and just more unhinged. And honestly, you can really feel this almost dark energy just build up as his crimes, they get worse and worse. And by the end, I really feel like we're almost watching just a full psychotic break on camera. Also, on the disturbing front, I find this film is just raw and nasty and is just a great film if you really want to see something that really takes it there and sticks with you. Overall, I think for free on Tubi, if you haven't seen this movie, Sorgoi Prakov is a must-watch.
So here we are. It's the first day of the trip.
Croissant.
Croissant. Croissant, it's really traditional. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Okay, I see that you enjoy the Paris by night.
Oh, yeah.
All right, last movie we're going to take a look at on this Found Footage Friday is a 2013 horror mystery sci-fi named Afflicted. And this movie is available on Amazon Prime.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Two best friends see their trip of a lifetime take a dark turn when one of them is struck by a mysterious affliction. Now, in a foreign land, they race to uncover the source before it consumes him completely. It is directed by Derek Lee and Cliff Prowse. All right, so let's talk about Afflicted. One of my favorite things about Afflicted is I just rewatched this movie recently, and this film really holds up. Now, this is another one where the acting is good, and again, the camera matrix is just really smart how they kind of cut the angles and present the story to you. And the fact that the two leads they wrote, acted, and directed in the film is honestly impressive. The buildup is fun, and just this whole transformation story, it just feels raw and personal. And once this movie gets going, man, it never really lets up. It's super bloody where it needs to be. It's got some really great kind of action sequences. And as far as a found footage goes, it's just eventful and engaging. And not only that, if you've watched these videos, part of my lore, my origin story is I did own a comic store at one point, so I am a pretty big kind of comic geek, and I really love the way that we kind of get this power discovery with this character, just as he's kind of like discovering and like finding out his powers. It's just a really interesting hook of the film. And the payoff for this one is really good and brutal. So if you want like a really solid kind of fast-paced, brutal vampire found footage, then I think Afflicted is a must-watch.
I have no idea what's going on with Derek. Okay, I am at 60 kilometers an hour! Woo! But what he did should be impossible. Derek? How do you think this happened?
I don't know. I need to find Audrey. It starts with her.
Are you okay?
I feel fine.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for the very first episode of Found Footage Friday. I hope you guys enjoyed this content, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. Now, honestly, we've got our first episode in the bag. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys found a couple of found footages that you had either A, never heard of before, or that you've wanted to see, and now you have a little bit of a go-ahead that the movie is at least worth the time. So I also want to say, like, as we get into this, remember, found footages are generally kind of a lower budget offering, and that's one of the things I do like about them. I find that filmmakers can get a good start out of it, or anybody who's got like any kind of, you know, imagery in their head, they can try to like really bring that to light. So I'm really excited about this series, and I've got a lot of good found footages for you, so please stay tuned. And like I said, every time I come across a couple of new ones, I'm going to package those up and throw in some really good classics. So this is just the start. But yeah, guys, that's it. I'm out of here for real this time, as I have got a ton of movies to watch. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have been taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.